The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched higher than most mountains. Crystal pillars reached toward a ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered here, their various forms creating a tapestry of alien life that would have amazed any who saw it. The Zephyrians floated in their containment fields, their crystalline bodies catching and reflecting the soft blue light that filled the chamber. Nearby, the Vorthak delegation hung in specialized atmosphere bubbles, their gas-formed bodies swirling in patterns that spoke of ancient wisdom. The insectoid Ketra moved as one mind, thousands of individuals acting with perfect coordination. All these mighty civilizations, masters of technology that could reshape stars and bend space itself, waited in respectful silence. They waited for the elders. When the ancient beings finally entered, the very air seemed to grow heavy with the weight of eons. The elders were old when the first Zephyrian learned to think, ancient when the Vorthak first touched the void between stars. Their forms were humanoid but stretched and refined by countless millennia, their eyes holding the light of dying suns. The lead elder stepped forward, his voice carrying easily through the vast space without any amplification. "We have watched the dance of civilizations for longer than your histories record. We have seen species rise to touch the face of creation itself, and we have watched them fall into dust and memory." Admiral Thesix of the Hegemony shifted his massive frame, his 4 arms crossing over his armored chest. The Hegemony controlled a quarter of the galaxy's inhabited systems. They had crushed rebellions, absorbed entire species, and built an empire that stretched across 10,000 light-years. He was not easily impressed by warnings from beings who preferred to observe rather than act. "Today we bring you a warning," the elder continued, his ancient eyes sweeping across the assembled delegates. "In the outer spiral on the third world of an unremarkable yellow star, something stirs. A species that calls itself human has begun to look beyond their home. They are young, violent, and utterly unpredictable." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The outer spiral was considered a backwater region, barely worth the attention of the great powers. What threat could possibly emerge from such a place? The elder raised one hand and the chamber fell silent again. "We have seen this pattern before. A species that burns too bright, spreads too fast, refuses to accept the natural order of things. They are dangerous in ways you cannot yet comprehend." "Dangerous?" Admiral Thesix's voice boomed through the hall. "A single world poses a threat to civilizations that span star systems? These humans have barely managed to visit their own moon. They fight with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. What possible harm could they bring to powers like ours?" The elder's gaze fixed on the Hegemony Admiral, and for a moment Thesix felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. "You think in terms of weapons and ships, Admiral. You count their missiles and measure their technology, but you do not see what makes them truly dangerous." "Then enlighten us," said Speaker Prime Zirath of the Zephyrian Collective, her crystalline form chiming like distant bells. "What makes these primitives worthy of our concern?" The elder was quiet for a long moment, as if gathering thoughts from across the vast span of his existence. "They do not accept defeat. When faced with the impossible, they do not surrender or seek compromise. They become creative. They adapt. They find ways to turn their weaknesses into weapons and their disadvantages into opportunities." The assembly erupted in discussion. The very idea seemed absurd to most of them. How could weakness become strength? How could a primitive species threaten civilizations that had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe? General Vextar of the Corian Empire laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Let them come then. If these humans are so dangerous, we will demonstrate the price of challenging established powers. One lesson will be sufficient." But the elder shook his head slowly. "That is exactly what we warned against. Every civilization that has faced such a species has thought the same thing. One quick demonstration of superior force and the primitives will learn their place. But that is not how it works with species like this." "Then what do you propose?" Admiral Thesix asked, his tone less mocking now. "Containment immediately. Surround their system with monitoring stations. Do not allow them to spread beyond their home star. Study them, learn their nature, but do not let them loose among the stars." The debate that followed lasted for days. Some argued for the elders' approach, but many more believed it was unnecessary. The humans were too far away, too primitive, too insignificant to matter. Besides, there were more pressing concerns. The Void Collective had been sending strange signals from the galactic core. Trade disputes needed resolution. Border conflicts required attention. In the end, the vote was close but decisive. The galaxy would observe these humans but take no direct action. Let them develop naturally. If they became a problem, they could be dealt with later. It seemed like the reasonable, measured response of civilized beings. The elders accepted the decision with the patience of ages, but their leader delivered one final warning before departing. You believe you understand the nature of threat because you have always faced enemies like yourselves. Rational beings who fight for territory, resources, or ideology. You prepare for wars of economics and strategy. He paused at the great doors of the chamber, his ancient form seeming to fade into the shadows. But these humans do not fight like you. They fight like a cornered animal with the intelligence of gods. They will sacrifice everything for the smallest advantage. They will find ways to hurt you that you never imagined possible, and when you think you have defeated them, they will rise again stronger than before. We have been warned, Admiral Thesic said formally. The galaxy will watch and be ready. The elder's final words echoed through the chamber as he disappeared into the corridor beyond. No power in this galaxy is ready for what they will become. As the Great Assembly dispersed, representatives returning to their home systems and fleets, none of them gave much thought to a small blue world orbiting an ordinary star in the outer spiral. They had wars to fight, empires to maintain, and technologies to develop. The humans could wait. On Earth, unaware that their fate had been debated by powers beyond their imagination, humanity continued its slow climb toward the stars. In laboratories and workshops around the world, scientists and engineers worked on problems that had puzzled them for generations. How to travel faster, how to survive in the vacuum of space, how to reach other worlds. They worked with the same determination their ancestors had shown when climbing down from trees, when crossing dangerous oceans, when building cities in hostile environments. It was the same drive that had carried them through ice ages and plagues, through wars and disasters that would have destroyed other species. The elders knew this drive well. They had seen it in other species across the eons. It was the mark of something special, something that could not be contained or controlled once it was fully awakened. But their warnings had fallen on deaf ears, as such warnings always did. In the great library of their hidden world, the elders made their preparations. They had seen this story before, and they knew how it would end. The galaxy thought it was prepared for anything, but it had never faced the storm that was coming. Soon, very soon, the stars themselves would tremble before the species that refused to accept defeat. The dance of civilizations was about to gain a new partner, one who would not follow the ancient steps but would create entirely new movements that would change the music forever. The shuttle bay of the neutral meeting station buzzed with activity. Both sides had agreed to meet on an old asteroid mining platform that floated between their ships. Captain Zethara smoothed her ceremonial robes as she prepared to meet the humans. Her diplomatic team carried gifts and cultural artifacts as was proper for first contact. Remember, she told her team, these humans seem very focused on security. Do not make sudden movements. They may be nervous because they are far from home. The human shuttle arrived first. It was black and angular, nothing like the flowing designs of Zilithian vessels. When the airlock opened, 3 humans stepped out. They wore matching gray uniforms and moved with precise, coordinated steps. Captain Sarah Chen was shorter than Zethara expected. Her hair was pulled back in a tight style. Her eyes were sharp and alert, constantly scanning the room. The 2 humans with her stood at attention, hands near their sidearms. Captain Chen, Zethara said, spreading her arms wide in the traditional Zilithian greeting of openness. Welcome. We are honored to meet the first humans. Chen nodded but did not copy the gesture. Thank you, Captain Zethara. I appreciate your willingness to meet. My security officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez, and my diplomatic advisor, Commander Park. Security officer? Even for a simple meeting, they brought a security officer? These are my cultural specialist and communications expert, Zethara replied, gesturing to her team. We have brought gifts to celebrate this historic moment. Chen's eyes immediately focused on the packages her team carried. I'll need those scanned before we proceed. Scanned? For what? Captain Chen, these are simple cultural items. Art objects and music recordings. Nothing more. I understand, but protocol requires verification. Lieutenant Rodriguez? The security officer stepped forward with a small device. He ran it over each package, checking for Something. Weapons? Explosives? The very idea was absurd. Clear, Captain, Rodriguez reported. Thank you. Now we can begin, Chen said, but she did not relax. Zethara tried to understand. Captain Chen, you seem very concerned about danger. Is there something specific you fear? In my experience, Captain, complacency kills. We maintain security protocols because they keep people alive. But we are here in peace. We offer only friendship. I believe that, Chen replied. But belief and verification are different things. We verify everything. The cultural exchange began, but it felt wrong to Zethara. Every time her team moved, the human security officer watched them. When they showed their art, Chen examined each piece carefully before allowing her people to touch it. When the Zilithians offered food samples, the humans politely declined. We have dietary restrictions, Chen explained, and food can carry biological hazards. Biological hazards? Captain Chen, do you believe we would poison you? Not intentionally, but cross-species contamination is a real concern. We take precautions. This was not how first contact should work. Where was the joy? The celebration of new friendship? The humans treated everything like a threat. Chen began explaining human space. We come from a region where multiple species compete for resources. Conflicts are common. Our ship design reflects this reality. Conflicts? Zethara could not hide her shock. You mean wars? With other intelligent species? Wars, territorial disputes, resource conflicts, piracy. Space can be dangerous, but intelligent species should be peaceful. Violence is primitive. It is what happens before civilization. Chen looked puzzled. Captain, with respect, civilization doesn't end conflict. It just makes conflict more organized. The words made no sense to Zethara. How can you say that? Intelligent beings should cooperate, not fight. They should, Chen agreed. But they don't always. Sometimes cooperation fails. Sometimes one side wants what another side has. Sometimes communication breaks down. When that happens, you need to be ready. Ready for what? Ready to defend yourself. Ready to protect your people. Ready to show that attacking you cost more than it's worth. Zethara felt sick. You prepare for war? We prepare for everything, Chen corrected. War is just one possibility. But it's the possibility that can destroy everything else. The diplomatic advisor, Commander Park, leaned forward. Captain Zethara, perhaps your species has been fortunate. Perhaps you live in a region of space where everyone is peaceful. That's wonderful. But not all of space is like that. All the species we have met are peaceful, Zethara insisted. 47 different species. All wanted trade and friendship. That's impressive, Chen said. But it only takes one species that doesn't want trade and friendship to ruin everything. One species that sees your peaceful nature as weakness. Weakness? Peace is strength. Peace is strength when everyone agrees to be peaceful, Chen replied. But what happens when someone doesn't agree? Zethara could not answer. Her people had never faced such a situation. Chen continued, Your ships, Captain, they're beautiful, elegant. But they have no shields, no weapons, no armor. What would you do if someone attacked them? No one would attack them. We are peaceful. But what if they did? What if a ship appeared and started shooting? We would. We would try to communicate. We would explain that we mean no harm. And if they kept shooting while you were explaining? Zethara felt her skin turning pale blue with distress. Such things do not happen. Chen exchanged glances with her officers. Captain, they happen in human space all the time. Pirates, raiders, hostile governments, territorial conflicts. Sometimes talking works, sometimes it doesn't. So you fight? We defend ourselves. And we make sure that anyone thinking about attacking us knows it will cost them dearly. That is why your ship has so many weapons? One of the reasons. The retribution is designed to end fights quickly. The faster a fight ends, the fewer people die. This logic hurt Zethara's head. Fighting to end fighting? Fighting to prevent fighting, Chen corrected. When potential enemies know they cannot win, they usually choose not to fight at all. Commander Park added, It's called deterrence. You show strength so you don't have to use it. But what about cooperation? What about working together? We do that too, Chen said. We have allies. We trade with peaceful species. We prefer cooperation, but we're ready for the alternative. The meeting continued for hours, but the gap between the two species seemed to grow wider. The humans spoke of strategy, tactics, and threat assessment. The Zilithians spoke of art, music, and cultural exchange. Finally, Chen stood. Captain Zethara, this has been educational. But I think we need to be clear about something. Your people seem to live in a very safe part of space. That's good. But my ship is not here for exploration or cultural exchange. What do you mean? We're here because our sensors detected unknown ships in this region. We came to investigate a potential threat. Zathara's blood went cold. You thought we were threats? We didn't know what you were. We still don't completely. But we are peaceful. You seem peaceful. But appearance and reality can be different things. The meeting ended with both sides more confused than before. The Zalithians could not understand how an intelligent species could be so focused on conflict. The humans could not understand how an intelligent species could be so naive about danger. As they returned to their ships, neither side realized how badly they had misunderstood each other. The Zalithians thought the humans were paranoid warriors who saw enemies everywhere. The humans thought the Zalithians were innocents who had never faced real danger. Both were partly right. And that misunderstanding was about to lead to disaster. On the Retribution, Chen briefed her senior officers. They're either completely innocent or very good actors. Either way, we maintain alert status. On the Harmony's light, Zathara spoke to her crew. These humans are frightening. They think like warriors. We must be very careful not to trigger their aggressive instincts. Neither captain knew that their words were pushing both sides toward the very conflict they were trying to avoid. 3 days after the first meeting, the situation began to fall apart. Captain Zathara watched her screens with growing concern as the human battleship continued its strange behaviors. Every few hours, the massive vessel would power up different systems, run what they called diagnostic checks, and adjust its position slightly. To human eyes, these were normal maintenance procedures. To Zalithian eyes, they looked like preparation for attack. Captain, reported her scanning officer, the human ship has powered up its weapon systems again. Energy readings are off the scale. Are they targeting us? No, Captain. But their weapons are definitely active. Zathara tried to stay calm. Perhaps this was normal for humans. Their meeting had shown they were obsessed with security. Maybe they always kept their weapons ready. But then the human ship did something that changed everything. Captain, the scanning officer's voice was sharp with alarm. The human ship is launching smaller vessels. On the screen, 6 small craft left the Retribution. They spread out in a pattern around the human battleship. To Captain Chen, this was a standard defensive patrol. To Captain Zathara, it looked like preparation for battle. Send a message, Zathara ordered. Ask them why they are deploying combat craft. The reply came back quickly. Routine patrol deployment. Standard security procedure. Security procedure again. Everything with these humans was about security, but then one of the human patrol craft changed course. It was heading toward the Zalithian ships. Captain, one of their small ships is approaching us. Zathara felt panic rising in her chest. Are they attacking? No, Captain. They are just coming closer. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Torres piloted her fighter on a standard reconnaissance flight. The alien ships were beautiful, but her job was to gather intelligence on their capabilities. She flew past the lead alien vessel, taking detailed scans. On the Zalithian ship, every alarm began ringing. They are scanning us, shouted the communications officer. Deep penetration scans. They are looking at our internal systems. To Torres, this was routine intelligence gathering. To the Zalithians, it felt like violation. Why would peaceful explorers need to know about their internal systems? Captain, said Zathara's second officer, I recommend we call for reinforcements. Zathara hesitated. The nearest Zalithian patrol was 6 hours away. But maybe the presence of more ships would make the humans less aggressive. Send the call, she decided. Captain Chen received the alien transmission and immediately translated it. Request immediate assistance. Situation may be deteriorating. Unknown vessel displaying aggressive postures. Chen's blood went cold. The aliens thought she was being aggressive. Her ship was in standard defensive configuration. Her patrols were routine. What did these aliens consider aggressive? Red alert, she ordered. All hands to battle stations. If the aliens were calling for reinforcements while claiming the humans were aggressive, something was very wrong. The Retribution's hull plates shifted as the ship moved to full combat readiness. Weapon ports opened. Shield generators hummed to life. The massive battleship transformed from merely intimidating to absolutely terrifying. The Zalithians watched in horror as the human ship revealed its true nature. They had thought those weapon ports were sensor arrays. They had believed the thick armor was just protective plating. Now they saw the ship for what it really was, a machine designed for war. By the ancestors, whispered Zethara's scanning officer. They have enough firepower to destroy a planet. Send a message, Zethara ordered. Tell them we are peaceful. Tell them we want no conflict. The message reached the Retribution, just as Chen was trying to understand why the aliens had called for backup while claiming to be peaceful. Captain, reported her communications officer, they're sending peace messages. But our intelligence shows they've called for reinforcements. This made no sense. You didn't call for reinforcements and send peace messages at the same time. Unless the peace messages were meant to keep the humans calm, while the alien fleet moved into position. How long until their reinforcements arrive? Chen asked. Based on their transmission, approximately 6 hours. 6 hours. If this was a trap, she had 6 hours before the aliens revealed their true intentions. Maintain alert status. Do not power down any systems. The misunderstandings multiplied like a virus. Each side interpreted the other's actions through their own cultural lens. The humans saw tactical movements where none existed. The Zilithians saw aggressive posturing and routine procedures. When the Zilithian reinforcements finally arrived, the situation exploded. 5 more Zilithian ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They were just as beautiful and unarmed as the first 3. To them, they were responding to a call for help from fellow Zilithians facing aggressive aliens. To Captain Chen, 8 alien ships had just appeared in attack formation. Battle stations, she ordered. All weapons online. Prepare for combat! The Retribution erupted into activity. Every weapon system came online. The ship's massive engines powered up. Defensive screens reached maximum strength. Captain Zethara stared at her screens in disbelief. The human ship was preparing to fight all 8 Zilithian vessels. The energy readings were beyond anything she had ever seen. They mean to attack us, she whispered. Captain, their weapons are locked onto our ships, reported the scanning officer. This was not true. The Retribution's weapons were powered but not targeted. But the Zilithian sensors couldn't tell the difference between ready weapons and aimed weapons. All ships. Evasive maneuvers, Zethara ordered. 8 Zilithian vessels suddenly changed course, spreading out and moving in different directions. To Chen, this looked like the aliens were taking attack positions. They're maneuvering for attack, reported her tactical officer. Recommend firing warning shots, Chen hesitated. She didn't want to start a war. But 8 alien ships were moving into attack formation while claiming to be peaceful. If she waited, her ship might be overwhelmed. Fire warning shots across their bow, she ordered. Make it clear we're ready to defend ourselves. The Retribution's forward guns spoke once. Twin beams of coherent energy lanced out, passing just in front of the lead Zilithian ship. To Chen, these were warning shots, meant to show resolve without causing harm. To Zethara, they were an unprovoked attack. The energy beams passed so close to the Harmony's light that they overloaded several sensor arrays. Sparks flew on the bridge. 3 crew members were injured by flying debris. They fired on us, Zethara gasped. Without provocation, they fired on us. The moment that changed everything had arrived. The humans had drawn first blood, even though they meant no harm. The Zilithians now faced a choice: surrender to aggressive aliens or defend themselves. Return fire, Zethara ordered. All ships return fire! The Zilithian ships had no weapons, but they did have mining lasers, cutting tools, and industrial equipment. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. 8 beams of industrial cutting laser reached out toward the human battleship. Captain Chen watched the alien weapons impact her shields. They were weak, barely registering on her defensive screens. But they were weapons fire. The aliens had just attacked a human ship. Everything the humans had feared was coming true. The aliens had lured them into a trap. First they called for reinforcements while claiming peace. Then they attacked with concealed weapons. All weapons free, Chen ordered, her voice cold as space. Defend the ship. The UES Retribution was about to show 8 peaceful exploration vessels what a human warship could really do. And neither side understood that this entire disaster had grown from simple misunderstandings. The humans thought they were defending themselves against a clever trap. The Zilithians thought they were fighting for survival against unprovoked aggression. Both sides were wrong. And both sides were about to pay the price for their misunderstanding. The shooting war had begun. The first full exchange of weapons fire lasted exactly 37 seconds. When it ended, the Zilithian commanders stared at their screens in absolute shock. Captain Zathara could not believe what she was seeing. Her 8 ships had fired everything they had at the human battleship. Mining lasers, cutting beams, even the emergency plasma vents, all of it had struck the human vessel, and none of it had mattered. The human ship's shields had absorbed everything without even flickering. Meanwhile, the return fire from the Retribution had been surgical and terrifying. Every Zilithian ship had lost exactly the same systems: engines, shields, weapons, and communications. Not destroyed, disabled. The human weapons had struck with impossible precision, shutting down specific systems while leaving life support untouched. "How is this possible?" whispered Commander Yethko of the Peaceful Dawn. His ship drifted helpless, all systems dark except for basic life support. Captain Chen's voice came over the communications channel. Calm and professional. "Zilithian vessels. This is Captain Chen. You have attacked a human warship. Your vessels are now disabled. Do not attempt to repair your systems. Any attempt to restore weapons or engines will be seen as continued hostility." Zathara found her voice. "Captain Chen, we were defending ourselves. You fired first." "I fired warning shots, Captain." You responded with weapons fire. "That constitutes an act of war under human military law." "Warning shots? You damaged our ship. Our people were injured." A pause. "Then, casualties were not intended. However, your response was still an act of aggression. You will now surrender your vessels for inspection." Surrender? The word hit the Zilithian commanders like a physical blow. No one had ever asked them to surrender anything. The concept barely existed in their language. "We will not surrender," Zathara replied. "We are peaceful explorers. We have done nothing wrong." "You opened fire on a human vessel." Chen's voice carried a coldness that made Zathara's skin crawl. "That is something very wrong indeed." What happened next would haunt Zathara for the rest of her life. The human battleship began to move. Not quickly, not aggressively, but with the deliberate pace of absolute confidence. It approached the disabled Zilithian ships like a predator approaching wounded prey. "Captain," Chen's voice came again, "I'm going to explain something to you. Your people seem to misunderstand the nature of this situation. You see this as a conflict between equals. It is not." On the screens, the human ship grew larger as it approached. The Zilithians could see details now. Gun ports big enough to fly shuttles through, armor plates thicker than their entire hulls, sensor arrays that probably cost more than their entire ships. "Your vessels are exploration ships modified with mining equipment," Chen continued. "My vessel is a purpose-built instrument of war. It was designed by a species that has been perfecting the art of warfare for 10,000 years. The Retribution came to a stop directly between the disabled Zilithian ships. From this position, it could fire on any of them instantly. Your weapons," Chen's voice remained calm, "are industrial tools. They are designed to cut through rock and metal. My weapons are designed to destroy enemy warships protected by the most advanced defenses we can build." To demonstrate, one of the human ship's smaller guns fired a single shot into empty space. The energy beam was so intense it left a visible distortion in space itself. "That was a point defense weapon," Chen explained. "One of my smallest guns. It has more destructive power than all of your ships combined." The Zilithian commanders felt their worlds collapsing. They had believed that intelligence meant peace. They had believed that civilization meant cooperation. They had never imagined that another species could be both intelligent and militaristic. "Captain Chen," Zathara tried again, "we understand you are powerful, but we are still peaceful. We want no war with humans." "Too late for that, Captain. You already started a war when you fired on my ship. But we were defending ourselves." "No," Chen's voice turned sharp. "You were attacking, and now you're going to learn the difference." The human ship began broadcasting on all frequencies. Every ship in the system could hear Captain Chen's words. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Retribution to all Zilithian vessels. You have committed an act of war against humanity. I am now going to demonstrate why that was a mistake." The demonstration began with a tactical lecture. "Your formation," Chen announced, "shows no understanding of space combat. You clustered together, making yourselves a single target. Watch." One of the Retribution's weapons fired a single shot that passed through the formation, missing every ship by exactly 10 meters. One shot could have destroyed all 8 ships, Chen explained. Next, your weapons are visible light lasers. Easily detected, easily avoided, easily blocked. Watch. The human ship fired a different weapon, invisible coherent radiation that struck the hull of the gentle current. The ship's hull began to glow red-hot in a perfect circle. Invisible weapon. Your sensors can't track it. Your hulls can't stop it. I'm heating a 1-meter circle on your hull to demonstrate penetration capability. The metal cooled, leaving a perfectly round scorch mark. Next, your ships have no armor. Watch. Another weapon fired. This time, a projectile struck the Harmony's light and passed completely through the hull without exploding. The entry and exit holes were perfectly round. Kinetic penetrator. No explosion, no energy signature. Just a solid projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed. It went through your ship without hitting anything vital. If I had wanted to destroy you, it would have exploded inside your hull. Captain Zathara stared at the hole in her ship. The projectile had passed within 2 meters of the bridge. If the human had aimed slightly differently, your ships, Chen continued, show no understanding of defensive design. No redundant systems, no armor, no point defense, no damage control protocols. You built them to look beautiful. We build our ships to survive. The lecture continued for an hour. Chen systematically explained every flaw in Zilithian ship design, every mistake in their tactics, every weakness in their strategy. She did it calmly, professionally, like a teacher explaining a lesson to slow students. But the real lesson was deeper than tactics. The real lesson was about the nature of power. Your people, Chen said finally, have lived in a safe bubble. You've met 47 species and they were all peaceful. Do you know why? Zathara couldn't answer. Her voice had failed her. Because the aggressive species killed each other off or learned to be peaceful through hard experience. You've met the survivors and the evolved. You've never met the predators. The human ship turned slowly, bringing different weapons to bear on different Zilithian vessels. In human space, we've met the predators. We've fought the conquerors. We've faced species that see cooperation as weakness and peace as opportunity. We've learned that sometimes, the only way to preserve peace is to be so dangerous that nobody wants to fight you. Chen's voice softened slightly. Your people seem genuinely peaceful. That's admirable. But it also makes you incredibly dangerous. Dangerous? How can peace be dangerous? Because aggressive species see peaceful species as prey. If we let you return to your space with stories of humans who can be provoked into backing down, every predator in this sector will know that humans can be intimidated by innocent-looking victims. The implications hit Zathara like a physical blow. You mean to destroy us? To cover up this meeting? No, Captain. I mean to educate you. By the time this is over, you're going to understand exactly what kind of universe you really live in, and you're going to understand why humanity has become what it is. The human ship's weapons powered down, but somehow that made it even more frightening. Class is now in session, Captain Chen announced. Today's lesson: what happens when civilization meets warfare? 6 hours later, Captain Zathara sat in the conference room of the human battleship, her body shaking with exhaustion and shock. Around the table sat the commanders of all 8 disabled Zilithian vessels. They had been brought aboard the Retribution expecting execution. Instead, they found themselves in a medical bay. Human doctors had treated their wounded with skill and care that surpassed anything in Zilithian medicine. The injured crew members from the warning shots were not only healed but enhanced with medical technology the Zilithians had never imagined. Your cellular regeneration is fascinating, Dr. Martinez had explained while healing Commander Yethko's burns. Your people have natural healing abilities we could learn from. In exchange, our nanomedicine can repair damage that would be permanent for your species. Now they sat across from Captain Chen, who looked nothing like the terrifying warrior they had expected. She was calm, professional, and strangely sad. Do you understand what happened today? Chen asked quietly. Zathara struggled to find words. You showed us that we are helpless against your weapons. No, Captain. I showed you that you are helpless against any weapons. My ship could have destroyed your entire fleet in minutes, but so could a dozen other species you haven't met yet. Chen activated a holographic display showing a map of local space. This is your territory, she said, highlighting a cluster of peaceful star systems. And this, she expanded the view, is the real galaxy. The map exploded outward, showing hundreds of species locked in various conflicts. Trade wars, territorial disputes, Resource conflicts and full-scale military campaigns colored vast regions of space. Your peaceful bubble exists because you're in a quiet sector, Chen explained. The dangerous species are fighting each other on the far side of the galaxy. But that won't last forever. Commander Yuthko spoke for the first time since being brought aboard. Are you saying we will face war whether we want to or not? I'm saying that your choice isn't between peace and war, Chen replied. Your choice is between being prepared and being extinct. Chen stood and walked to the view screen showing the disabled Zilithian ships. Your vessels are beautiful. Your people are clearly intelligent and cultured, but your entire civilization is built on an assumption that will get you killed. What assumption? Zethara asked. That intelligence equals peaceful intentions. Chen called up another display. Species designation, the Harmony Collective. Highly intelligent. Advanced technology. Beautiful art and music. They believed that all intelligent life would eventually become peaceful. The display showed ruined worlds and empty space. They were conquered by the Bloodclaw Empire 300 years ago. The Bloodclaws had inferior technology but superior weapons design. The Harmony Collective tried to reason with them right up until the moment their homeworld was destroyed. Another display, the Meditation Republic. Philosophical species, masters of logic and reason. They calculated that war was illogical, and therefore impossible between truly intelligent beings. More ruined worlds. Conquered by the Vorthak swarm 90 years ago. The Vorthak don't care about logic. They care about resources and territory. Display after display showed the same pattern. Peaceful, intelligent species destroyed by aggressive neighbors. But not all peaceful species die, Chen continued. Some learn, some adapt, some build defenses. A new set of displays showed thriving civilizations, the Kepler Federation, the Centauri Alliance, the Wolf Pack Coalition, all started as peaceful species, all learned that peace must be defended. Chen turned back to the Zilithian commanders. Humanity learned this lesson 5,000 years ago. We had a period much like yours, peaceful, cooperative, focused on art and science. Then we met the Zirian Empire. The display showed Earth burning. They conquered us, enslaved us, used us as forced labor for 3 centuries. When we finally broke free, we swore it would never happen again. So you became conquerors yourselves? Zethara asked, horror in her voice. No, Chen said firmly. We became guardians. We learned to fight so we would never be victims again, but we also learned why fighting exists in the first place. Chen sat back down, her expression serious but kind. The universe is not fair, Captain. Intelligence doesn't guarantee morality. Technology doesn't create wisdom. Some species evolve cooperation, others evolve predation. The predators hunt the cooperators unless the cooperators learn to defend themselves. So we must become like you? Commander Yuthko asked. Warriors instead of scholars? You must become both, Chen replied. The strongest civilizations are those that can create and destroy with equal skill. They build beautiful art and terrible weapons. They explore new worlds and defend old ones. Chen activated one final display, the human fleet. Every human ship serves 2 purposes, exploration and defense. Every human citizen learns both cooperation and combat. We are artists and warriors, scientists and soldiers, diplomats and fighters. But doesn't that make you aggressive? Zethara asked. It makes us safe, Chen corrected. And it makes our friends safe too, she stood again. Which brings me to why you're here instead of floating in wreckage. The Zilithian commanders looked up sharply. Humanity doesn't conquer peaceful species, Chen explained. We protect them. But protection requires honesty about the dangers involved. Chen walked to the view screen again. Your people have a choice to make. You can return to your bubble and hope the predators never find you. Or you can join the alliance of species that defend each other. Alliance? The Terran Defensive Pact. 43 species working together to keep the predators at bay. We share technology, coordinate defenses, and guarantee each other's independence. Chen's expression softened. Your people would be valuable allies. Your natural healing abilities, your artistic achievements, your diplomatic skills, all of these have value. But you'd have to accept that the price of survival is constant vigilance. What would you require of us? Zethara asked quietly. First, honesty about the universe you live in. No more pretending that intelligence guarantees peace. Chen began counting on her fingers. Second, defensive preparations. You don't need to become warriors, but you need to be able to defend yourselves until help arrives. Third, Mutual defense. If one of us is attacked, all of us respond. Fourth, shared intelligence. We tell each other about threats and opportunities. And fifth, cultural exchange. We learn from each other. Your people teach us about healing and diplomacy. We teach you about defense and deterrence. The room fell silent as the Zilithian commanders considered this offer. Finally, Zathara spoke. And if we refuse? Chen's expression didn't change. Then you go home. We repair your ships and send you back to your space. We ask only that you not reveal our location to anyone else. You would let us leave? After everything that happened? Captain, you're not our enemies. You're innocents who stumbled into a dangerous situation. But if you leave unchanged, the next species you meet might not be so understanding. Zathara looked around the table at her fellow commanders. She saw the same thoughts in their eyes that filled her own mind. They had come to space believing it was safe. They had met 47 peaceful species and assumed the entire galaxy was like them. Today they had learned how wrong they were, but they had also learned that strength and wisdom could coexist, that warriors could be protectors instead of conquerors. That peace was possible, but only if good beings were willing to fight for it. Captain Chen, Zathara said slowly, I believe my people would be honored to join your alliance, but the decision must be made by our Council of Worlds. Chen nodded. Understood. We'll escort you back to your space and arrange formal diplomatic contact. But Captain, yes? When you tell your people what happened here, make sure they understand the real lesson. Which is? Chen looked out at the stars through the view screen. The universe is dangerous, but it's also full of beings willing to stand together against the darkness. The choice isn't between peace and war. It's between standing alone or standing together. 6 months later, the Zilithian hegemony became the 44th member of the Terran Defensive Pact. Their ships still looked beautiful, but now they carried shields and weapons alongside their art and music. Captain Zathara commanded the first joint patrol, a human battleship escorting 3 Zilithian vessels on a diplomatic mission. She had learned to think like a warrior while remaining a diplomat, and when they encountered a Bloodclaw raiding fleet threatening a peaceful mining colony, she understood why that knowledge was necessary. The raiders took one look at the human weapons and the determined Zilithian ships, calculated the odds, and decided to find easier prey elsewhere. Peace through strength, cooperation through mutual defense, safety through vigilance. These were the lessons that Captain Chen had taught her. These were the truths that would keep her people alive in a dangerous universe. The galaxy was indeed full of predators. But now it had more guardians too.